SnowWalkerOne. Nice to hear from you again, and thank you very much for the banjo music. No video ridiculing me is quite complete without banjo music, and I especially like dueling banjos. Now, you asked me quite a few questions in this latest video of yours, and I'll try and deal with some of them right now. The main questions, I think, are A, do I believe that when I say Islamophobia is racism, and am I actually saying, I'm walking up to people that I've never met before, and that's an awful lot of people when there's 7 billion of us, and saying, you are a racist because someone questions the teachings of Islam? Well, first of all, I've never told anyone that they shouldn't question the teachings of Islam. Or if I have, by losing my train of thought, if by omission I did say such a thing, I hereby give an unqualified retraction and apology. So, now, criticism is one thing. Hatred, vilification, is quite another. If someone wants to criticize something, if someone wants to sit down and say, I know what this thing called Islam is, and I object to it because of this, 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 and this, even though I'm not trying to insult anyone who believes in it, you would be surprised the number of Muslims, if they believe that you're on the level, would listen to you. You'd be surprised. There's quite a few. But if you stand up there and say your religion is just a pile of rubbish, well, Muslims being as human as anyone else, the wall goes up and they just shut you out. They're not interested. So, I'm not saying anyone should not criticize Islam. It's just the way that you're going to do it. If you think that the Islamic world is in need of reform, there are ways to get people to want to reform, and spitting on their religion or their culture, and I'm not saying that you are, is not the way to do it. So, that's the main thing. I don't believe that you are a racist. In fact, to the best of my memory, and my memory is not all that good, I didn't even know that you existed when I made that 16-part series, that endless diatribe about Islamophobia is racism. So I have no way of knowing whether or not you're a racist. That's kind of central to my point. I can't get into your head. I can't figure out what's going on inside your own mind, so I don't know. Now, there's another thing in tandem with the points that you raised about my position, i.e., I say that it's difficult to find out what somebody else believes. You can't really just quote mine the Quran and say that this is what Muslims believe, because words are kind of meaningless unless we apply meaning to them, and the kind of free thinking and the kind of relentless questioning, I was going to say logic, but a lot of people would say that what I'm actually doing has nothing whatsoever to do with logic. It's possible, I don't know. A lot of Muslims would find that offensive, because they would hear that I'm pointing at the Quran and saying that's a bunch of meaningless words. So, just because I'm saying something in defense of people doesn't mean that I'm saying something that they're going to necessarily agree with. I am the arch social liberal. I'm all for gay marriage. I'm all for every conceivable liberal, social, live and let live position you can imagine. That's going to be a very hard sell in the Islamic world, or in big parts of it. They will tolerate a lot more than people think they will tolerate, but the things that they have to tolerate, or that they are willing to tolerate, have to be done in private. Drinking, whatever it is, homosexuality, whatever. So, just because I'm saying that someone is a racist if they're Islamophobic doesn't mean that Muslims, when they actually look into my position, are going to find anything that I have to say about thought, logic, words, whatever, particularly sympathetic to their own position. I'm just trying to separate the arguments from the people. That's all. It doesn't mean that I agree with Islam or that I'm likely to become a Muslim. Anyone who knows me would laugh at the prospect. But I have no desire to show disrespect to anyone's beliefs. A lot of people seem to take exception with the fact that I said that the Filipinos are the world's happiest people. Well, I said that somebody else said that the Filipinos are the world's happiest people, and I was just sort of trying to talk about words and how culture informs and is informed by language. Where I got that information was in a travel manual in 2005. I think it was the Lonely Planet Guide, and it fascinated me because it kind of dovetailed with my experiences in the Philippines. I've been all over the country. In fact, I've been everywhere. Like, I travel almost obsessively. And the people that I have found the most pleasant, the most optimistic, the most filled with humor, with giggling and laughing and everything, are the Filipinos. Our angry, nasty outlook, and I'm not saying that I should qualify that, Western kind of cynicism and skepticism and suspicion is largely alien to them. And yes, there is a huge amount wrong with that country, but their way of coping with the frustrations of life is quite different from ours. They laugh. While we think that life is frustrating sometimes, while we think that life is a business to do logically and correctly, it's my generalization, yes, and this is a generalization, that the Filipinos' way to deal with the frustrations and difficulties and tragedies of life is to say life is absurd, ridiculous. Just laugh at it all. They do cry when they have their feelings hurt or when they stub their toe, but oh, do they ever laugh, and they laugh at the most odd times. Is that racist? I suppose it very well might be. If I say that I particularly like one particular culture, and that automatically, as you say, implies that there must be cultures out there that I don't like. Well, yes, but I'm not going to say which ones that I don't like, because that's not what I come onto the internet to actually do, is to say that I don't like this, that, or the other culture. Because if I don't like somebody else's culture, well, obviously he does, so why would I say that who am I to say that his culture is wrong or anything like that? If there was a culture that had all kinds of strange practices, like harmless but strange practices that I didn't particularly approve of, or maybe it's not even a question of approval, it just didn't do it for me, and there are those out there, I would simply not have anything to do with that particular culture. So that's another one of the questions that have been asked. For the record, do I believe you're a racist? I have no reason to believe that you're a racist. Do I believe that there are good and bad cultures? Absolutely not. But I'm a human being, and there are good and bad, there are cultures that I like and cultures that don't do it for me. You will note, if you have the fortitude and belly and resistance to extreme malarkey to go through my videos, that there's a lot of paradox and contradiction in what I'm saying. And I'm not going to say that there won't be. What I will say is it possible to form a consistent position in this universe that we live in? Is it possible, as a flawed human being with all the problems, all the illogic, all the irrationality and conflicting desires, fears, hatreds, loves, to be consistent? I'd say no, it's not. And that's why I attempt, at least, to argue the case from both sides. Because what if I believe something one week and then I change my mind the next week and say, I don't agree with my previous belief anymore? Was I once wrong and now I'm right, and then I'll be wrong again tomorrow? Possibly. It could be. Or has the information that I'm privy to increased, or have the circumstances around me changed? That's why I'm not quite so sure about right and wrong, and that's why I'm not quite so sure about words and communication. They're imperfect tools. They're the only tools that we do have, and as you can see, I can blabber on and use words, not maybe as good as the best of them, but I can pretend like I'm doing it as good as the best of them. So, it is a mass of contradictions that my position is, and you've pointed that out quite accurately. But I would say that everyone's position is a mass of contradictions that ends up contradicting itself as it develops, because that's inherent in humanity. Now, if you can make sense out of this video, I'd be impressed. But thanks again for the banjo music.